così. So, good morning to everybody. I am Anna Del Bianco, Director of the Department of Culture of Friuli Venezia Giulia region. I'm here also on behalf of the Regional Minister of Culture, Tiziana Gibelli, and I thank you, all of us, to be here. So, starting, I would like to say a few words to give you an overview of what the region, and in specific, our department is carrying out to support the cultural and creative sector, also in view of the organization of ECOC Nova Gorica 2021. The cultural and creative enterprises in Friuli Venezia Giulia represent a key element of the regional economy that reflects also the trend at national level. It says that in 2021, the regional cultural and creative production system produced over 1.8 billion euro of added value, weighing 5.2% of the total regional economy. And this is, I think, very important to stress. Yes. Making an increase in absolute terms, which brought the size of the sector back to the pre-pandemic level. So now we are back to what was before. With this data in mind, our department has been developing a strong regional strategy for culture and creativity, which combines different action and foundings, and whose objective is to strengthen the sector and increase its economic weight. On the basis of the different territorial needs in our region, and in consideration of the huge number of feedbacks that we received from our stakeholders that are constantly consulted, cultural and creative enterprises have been supported with specific actions financed by 10 European projects only in the last programming period. In the same period, using European Regional Development Fund, we have provided funding to regional CCE for about 3.8 million euro for acceleration, pre-incubation and incubation activities. And for the next programming period, we have already planned to support activities of cross-fertilization between CCE and traditional enterprises. I think this could be a very interesting action to focus on, also for ECOC. For Gorizia and Nova Gorica in particular, we are now managing a project of more than 9 million euro of next generation EU funds aimed to revitalize and recover in economic, cultural and social way the site of Borgo Castello in Gorizia. This project will involve more than 30 CCE of the ECOC zone with the purpose of inhabit again the site and help to set new economic bodies up there. All the work done so far reflects the idea of strengthening the synergy between culture and economy, and we think that ECOC 2025 is a unique opportunity for the promotion and the development of the creative and cultural sector in Friuli Venezia Giulia and in the cross-border territory. This will bring positive effects on the social growth, on the economy, and the enhancement of tangible and intangible cultural heritage of our region and of the cross-border territory. So, the added value of ECOC 2025 will be to build a stronger regional cultural and ecosystem and creative ecosystem that could be valorized also as a driver for cross-border development and cooperation. The exchange of experiences of the today event will be used also to plan a follow-up strategy when ECOC 2025 will end its calendar of events. In fact, our aim is to bring growth and development to the cross-border territory also in the forthcoming years by strengthening ECOC legacy. I think this is very, very important for the future. So, thank you for the organization of the today events that for sure I think will bring us new suggestions and new ideas. So good job to everybody. Thank you.
Dobro jutro, buongiorno, good morning everybody. I will use my 5 protocol minutes to list you 5 pieces we are doing for a better cinema. They may not all be easy pieces, but we are doing them anyway. What do we need to have a good film? First, you need a strong script. We are having a residency program that will help a dozen of script writers to finish or to improve their work. Then you need production conditions. We are establishing a regional film commission with Transmedia, largely based on the experience of our neighbors from Friuli, but with an ambition to become a national Slovene film office. You need to reach the audience. With Kino Atelier, we are not only bringing content to the existing theaters in the region, on both sides of the border, we are also establishing a mobile cinema, able to reach smaller communities, as well as provide summer outdoor projections. And we will be doing this with Art Kino from Rijeka, with Kino Dvor from Ljubljana, but also, for example, with DokuFest from Prizren, Kosovo. Fourth, you need international recognition of both classical and contemporary national and regional films and authors through festivals and topical conferences and debates. In a region with festivals such as Pordenone, Udine, Isola, Trieste, Ljubljana, Venice, we can really focus on very particular topics. And we will be doing this with Premio Sergio Amidei, with Omaggio Una Visione, and with the Far East Film Festival in Udine, Videm. And then I will not be the former editor of Ekran film magazine if I would neglect the necessary dimension of critical reflection and university discourse. It is important for every serious cinematographic journey, whether to Italy or to Tokyo, from Rossellini to Ozu. We need to reflect on the works and try to teach future generations to be still able not just to watch movies, but also to think about that. So this is our Cinecittà, from script to the fieldwork, from traveling cinemas to international festivals, and then back to books. You may say that we are lacking one minor detail, a production itself. No, we are not. We are heading towards 2 fields in particular, towards documentary and towards animation. And I'm proud to say that for the documentary, Slovene Film Center will include us in their 3-year production scheme of developing ideas, projects, and productions. And for the animation, we are lucky to be involved with currently one of the biggest EU-funded projects on animation, based in Nova Gorica University of Arts. This is what we know before listening to you today, from Kaunas, from Rijeka, from Tartu, from Novi Sad. Imagine how much more will we know in the afternoon. We are all eyes and ears. Neda, my artistic director, me as a program director, Anya as one of our authors, Mateja Zoran from Kino Atelier. We are all eyes and ears, as it should be in the audiovisual sector. But let me conclude with a personal note. When I was a young student, Silvan Furlan was telling me that he and his buddy Jože Dolmark would take some fresh meat and sell it on the Italian side of the border to be able to buy tickets and to see movies in Gorizia. In my mind, then it looked like a Shylock deal from The Merchant of Venice, a pound of fresh meat for some moving pictures. And from there on, I always, in all my career as a film critic, I think about movies as a kind of impossible trade, a kind of sacrifice, whether it's for money, time, meat, or tears. So this time, we are coming across the border with money, and we want some fresh meat in return. In the name of Gorizia 2025 and EZTS Eject, thank you for helping us create Nova Gorica and Gorizia Culture Capital of Europe 2025.
Well, thank you so much for mentioning Silvan Furlan. Silvan Furlan was a wonderful, free, independent spirit and a true long-standing friend of the festival. So I'm very moved that you mentioned this person that was so fundamental also for the birth of our festival. And I know that I should start really with a happy, funny note, but we don't have to leave behind the people we loved and that are not longer with us. So a thought today, not only to Silvan Furlan, but to Aleš Doktorić. May these souls continue to inspire us, in the future. So, welcome to Trieste Film Festival. Why are we organizing this event today, here? Why now, why here? Why now? The times are complex again. When the festival was born in 1989, the world was very complex. Actually, we were born immediately after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And those times, many filmmakers, many production companies had many difficulties to promote themselves and to make their voices heard. Today, that all these countries are not in the margins of Europe anymore, but they're more central than ever, times have been complex again. So when times are complex and difficult, and we thought that democracy and the internet and festivals and markets could bring us together, but actually a country not so far from here is again torn by the war in the heart of Europe. Well, it's a right time to start again talking about culture, the meaning about culture, and exactly the cinematic culture. Cinematic culture, I think, has many added values, and one of those added values is to demolish barriers and to somehow create one language, which is the cinematographic language, which is accessible to everyone, without barriers, without frontiers, which, to us, to the Trieste Film Festival, it's very important. So today, it's a space to provoke ideas, debate, to talk also about contradictions, because, it's not easy. To talk about culture always implies also many contradictions. And we are very happy to create a space accompanying somehow the following years until 2025. I think that the region is expecting the whole region, Friuli Venezia Giulia, to help this event to be realized and to be more concrete. We can't be just spectators or like extras in cinema. We want to be protagonists. So I'm very happy that today it will be the right opportunity and the right occasion to listen to those European cultures, cities, organizers and representatives, to learn what they're doing, to learn from their mistakes, from their suggestions, from their advice, and from their visions. I think it's very important not only to propose ideas, but also to listen to what the others, have at stake. So I really thank all the guests of this morning. Thank you really very much for attending this event. And of course, thanks to the region, Friuli Venezia Giulia. I think it's a very specific and special region where these kind of events can be organized. So thank you all, and I would like to leave space now to the moderator of the event this morning, Simona Regina, that I kindly ask to reach us on the desk here. Thank you, Simona, for moderating this morning.
Thank you, Nicoletta. Thank you, all of you. Let's start the round table now, an occasion for sharing experiences and best practices. Well, I'll speak in Italian. You can use, of course, the simultaneous translation. Well, let's go.
2025 is the title of this event, of this masterclass. Go 2025, Gorizia, Nova Gorica, European Capital of Culture in 2025, which will be an occasion to further enhance this cross-border area that is unique it will be an occasion to get to know the specificities, the peculiarities, and the richness of this area, and have culture as a driver of social and economic development in this area. We hope that culture could further enhance the quality of life of the inhabitants here and further strengthen the sense of community and belonging we have. As I said today, we would like to reflect through the testimonies of other European capital of culture, to reflect on the opportunities linked to the fact of being a European capital of culture with a specific focus on cinema. Being a European capital of culture brings about real benefits, long-lasting benefits. It manages to promote cultural tourism. It creates social and economic growth, can help build a sense of belonging, of community. It helps regenerate the cities, it creates European links, and it promotes new synergies. And what is the role of cinema in this framework? We would like to understand the long-standing impact in the cultural, urban, social, and economic realms. And these are some of the questions we will try to answer this morning through sharing best practices and experiences by the representatives of other European capital of culture. In particular, as was already mentioned, we will go to Tartu in Estonia, Novi Sad, Serbia, Rijeka in Croatia, Kaunas in Lithuania, and Timisoara, Romania. The first stop of our trip will be Romania, so I would like to ask Marta Ban to come here. Rijeka was the European Capital of Culture 2020, so we will see what were the projects. Projects were born there and were accomplished there, and we will see how cinema was the main character, the protagonist of the programs you carried on to enhance the role of culture in the growth of the community. Marta Bani is the coordinator of Art Kino program, a place where cinema and the cinematic culture is at home, and it's a space where to screen films and discuss about films, but not only.
Ecco. Buongiorno a tutti, good morning everybody, and thank you for having us, Art Kino, to tell you a bit about our eco-experience and how it influenced the film culture in Rijeka. Art Kino is a public institution founded by the city of Rijeka. I'm sorry, but where do I use this to change? I don't know. Just a moment. Well, how do I change the slides? This one? Okay. Green, okay. So yes, I will talk a bit about Art Kino, but also about our programs for young audiences and our Children's House, which is Rijeka Center for Young Creativity, created with children and not just for them, and created thanks to Rijeka 2020 European Capital of Culture. So Art Kino is a public institution founded by the city of Rijeka, and it's active in the domain of film art and culture. Our vision is to serve as a vibrant and welcoming center of culture and social life in Rijeka and region. First screenings in this building took place in 1926, and cinema as Art Kino reopened in 2008. It should be highlighted that it's only open cinema in the city center in Rijeka currently. We have one multiplex outside of the city center, and Art Kino is the only remaining cinema in Rijeka. Art Kino's main program activities are, of course, film program, activities for children and youth, educational and media programs, and support to the film production in our region through our Kvarner Film Commission that we have. That being said, let me focus on a program for young audiences, especially the ones that's been created thanks to Rijeka 2020 ECOC. As a part of European Capital of Culture project in 2020, Rijeka built and is still building or finishing many new cultural buildings and facilities co-financed by EU funds. And one of them is our Children's House, a new venue in former industrial complex Benčić in the very city center that is a sort of a mixture between cultural and educational center, production hub, but also experimental hub for children from 0 to 12 age. Children's House is managed and programmed by 4 cultural institutions: Rijeka City Library, Art Kino, City Puppet Theatre, and Museum of Contemporary and Modern Arts in Rijeka. All of these institutions, from their very beginnings, have been deeply committed to education and culture. So the Children's House comes as a natural growth in this practice. And this house inside consists of a multi-purpose venue for film screenings, but also various performances, rehearsals, and others. You can see it on the second floor, the green one. And then there we have 2 studios, music and audiovisual production studio, that are right next to the venue. Then we have a library on a 3rd floor, and many flexible spaces, so-called living rooms, playrooms for social events, lectures, meetings. Kids today just come there every day just to write their homework sometimes, you know. It's just like their second living room when the weather is ugly at Rijeka, and it's very often the situations. So it's like the perfect place to spend time when they're free. So here are some pictures how it looks inside. Children's House is, it's important to say it's a new venue, but it's also a new program format and new direction for art education, that it's all about collaboration between adults and children, between culture and education, learning and playing, arts and new media and new technologies. So our mutual aim in one way is to equip children with analytical and practical skills to understand and apply the language of arts, and as well to use it to express their own ideas and the ideas of the 21st century that we live in. So it's not just to teach children about art, but to encourage them to develop their own artistic potential and to participate in creating different forms of art, from films, shows, literary forms, new languages, whatever they want to do. Today, Art Kino is in charge of venue and 2 smaller recording and editing studios. The venue is has 75 seats and offers a unique and really unrepeatable cinema experience here in Rijeka. The hall is equipped with state-of-the-art equipment for image and sound reproduction. That is a laser 2K projector and corresponding lens for 3D animation. And as well, we have a Dolby Atmos surround system technology. And so far, we are the first cinema in Croatia that has it. Also, the hall has many technological innovations, such as, for example, an integrated sound system for hearing impaired people. So for the last 2 years, since we've been there, since the opening of the Children's House, Art Kino organizes public film screenings at the venue from Thursday until Sunday. The program consists of new animated and feature films for children and young people, and occasional special screenings or premieres or screenings of the classic films for children. And during the winter break and the spring break, the film screenings are being held every day, so that's kind of a point of the program there. When children are free, we are working. Then we have these two small recording and editing studios that are really well equipped. I'm not a technician, but I have to read all of this stuff that we have here because everybody says it's super cool and interesting and really like rich, small but rich space for children to learn and play. So it has like a chroma key surface for visual effects and compositing, two 4K camcorders, two robotic cameras, various types of microphones for each purpose, 6-channel audio recorder, audio mixer, LED lighting system on supporting structure of and the video mixer with control panel for creating virtual video studio and live broadcast, and other necessary equipment and softwares for workshops and other programs. So this equipment basically enables the implementation of various educational programs, from classic feature documentaries, films, and TV reports, radio podcasts, to digital 2D or 3D animation. During school year, we every day from Tuesday till Friday, during morning hours, we organize our School at the Cinema program, which is our most prominent project that we have for educating young people, which we implement continuously since 2009. School at the Cinema program is divided in 3 parts: for kindergartens, elementary schools, and second schools. All screenings are accompanied by a brief introductory lecture on a film topic, and the film selection criteria are different for, of course, all of the 3 programs. For example, for kindergartens, we mostly screen short animated films with a simple storyline and I don't know, some kind of pro-social that promotes pro-social behavior. Primary school film selection is linked to media culture segment of school subject creation, language and literature, which tackles film as a form of art. And for high schools or secondary schools, program is based on correlation with wider range of subjects, as for example, foreign languages, history, social issues, nature, environment, and stuff like that. As I already said, a children's house is not only this physical space dedicated to children, but also one of the flagships of Rijeka 2020 ECOC. That is, all the program activities aimed at children and youth were so-called forerunners of the future programs that are now being held in this physical space. For that reason, in parallel with the construction work, we have been preparing throughout the years and implementing numbers of activities that we did to build our audience. And among these programs, the most important one for raising public awareness for sure is Toboggan Festival, Festival of Children's Creativity. The first edition of the festival was held in 2017, and the festival has been shaping and growing ever since then. And now is being held also in a children's house. Toboggan program provides active holidays for children and youth. That is 2 or 3 weeks of attractive children workshops, film screenings, shows, concerts, and other. In addition to other organizers, Art Kino participates in organization and implementation of the festival with its rich film and workshop program. Toboggan is, as I already said, really known for its incredibly rich workshop programs, such as different film, theater, literature, and music-connected workshops, but also stuff like urban gardening, educational city walks, circus skill workshops, gaming workshops, and so on. In addition to workshopping program, there are also numerous film screenings, shows, concerts, puppet theater shows, street performances, games, and other open-air events for whole families. So talking about Art Kino and its activities for the festival, Toboggan, we are usually, so these are some of the activities that we do. And all of the 4 institutions that I mentioned before that are programming and directing Children's House are directly also included in this festival edition. So what do we do there? As Art Kino, we organize a number of workshops, such as playing with film, video reporting, stop animation, animated film, documentary film, video game design, video mapping, dubbing workshops, and other. And all of these workshops, with all of these workshops, children are encouraged to create art independently and to produce films and other materials with the help, of course, of their mentors. Then we have this small school of media culture that is directly connected with our School at the Cinema program. And this is like a sort of short training program for teachers and educators in fields of media culture. That is lessons on teaching media culture in elementary schools. So it's a good way to connect with schools and professors, to get to know them and to tell them in a way our side of the story and how to teach, what are all the possibilities of teaching film at the school. Then we have these open-air film screenings at parks, on squares, at beaches around the city, of mostly Croatian and European films, as well as the world cinema classics for kids. We had, I don't know, screenings recently of Goonies, of E.T., and these programs are always really well visited. Then we also organize film quizzes that are like children's version of pub quizzes, and kids really do love them. And then at the end we have this final event on open air in which we gather all the workshop participants and their mentors, and we do like sort of a premieres of the films, of the animated films they did during these workshops during Toboggan. As a part of Rijeka 2020, we also developed this program of traveling film workshops, in which participated 11 different primary schools from Rijeka. So the premise is really simple. Film professionals arrive to schools and lead children to make or to produce their own short film. During the workshop, which lasts for 7 months, they go through whole process of creating a film. So they develop a script, they shoot, they edit the film, and once the films are done, we, of course, organize premiere screenings. In total, we finished with the kids and their mentors 11 short films through this project. It's important at the end to emphasize that our workshop program is not only reserved for the period of Toboggan, but we are trying to organize various workshops throughout the year, especially during school holidays. But of course, it always this thing always depends on the fundings that we have, and since the European Capital of Culture year for Rijeka finished, I have to say that we are sometimes struggling with getting funded, because now we have this beautiful building and all this equipment, but the second part is when the event finishes, how to continue with the same amount of people that you have as employees before, and now with this greater amount of work. But we are struggling, and we are trying really hard, and it's going quite well. So yeah, as a physical space, the Children's House offers so many possibilities to us as programmers and organizers, and the children as our new content creators. And that is why I think this, and all of us in Rijeka for now, I think that they think that the Children's House is one of the best and most important heritage of Rijeka 2020 ECOC. Thank you.
Grazie Marta Van. Grazie per averci illustrato.
Thank you, Marta Van. Thank you for telling us about the experiences you had in Rijeka, Art Kino, and Children's House, promoting a public space. Children's House is one of the key factors of Rijeka 2020, which is beautiful because it's not only a physical space, but a place that declines itself through the different activities it promotes and proposes, trying to teach, trying to educate, to involve, to move, and to feed children's curiosity and creativity, so they can experiment and they can approach cinema and the cinematic art. What is interesting is when you underlined that the programs you've organized during the year, Rijeka was the European Capital of Culture, where the forerunners of the activities you are still proposing today. So cinema for schools, with schools, and schools at cinema, the workshops you mentioned, and everything you said. So Children's House is an important heritage coming from Rijeka, European Capital of Culture. Thank you. Thank you very much. At the end of this morning roundtable, we could confront ourselves. We can ask questions also to Marta Ban. I will leave the floor to Sara Vuletic. So we'll travel to Novi Sad. Novi Sad is the first Serbian city to conquer the title. 2016, Novi Sad was chosen as European Capital of Culture 2022. So Novi Sad has just accomplished a year when it was the European Capital of Culture. I guess it's been a huge challenge. So let's discover together what happened in the last 6 years, but specifically in the year that has just concluded. She is the program director of Novi Sad European Capital of Culture. So we are very curious to understand how the project you've built, remodeled your city and the culture, and who knows, also the infrastructure.
Thank you for your kind words. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting us. Thanks to Monica and the entire team. It's a really beautiful place, wonderful festival, and we are very privileged to share some of our experiences throughout the title year. Novi Sad has just kind of finished the European Capital of Culture year. We were European Capital of Culture in 2022. And I have to say that we have a myriad of programs, over 2,000 programs that were a part of our year. Among them, film, movie, and cinema played a significant part and role. Apart from those programs, we actually involved all types of arts, which we connected in terms of different topics. So just to give you like a brief and then move on to more concrete topic, we had during our year 8 different topics that we handled. So basically every 2 months we had a new topic, new concept that we talk about. The major idea was to connect differences. Therefore our slogan is for new bridges, to kind of bridge the old and new, the tradition and modernity, east and west. It had bridges for Novi Sad have metaphorical and historical role. Out of 8 bridges, now only 3 are alive, actually on top of the rivers, under the river Danube, sorry. Other bridges are underneath it, so we had a history full of turmoils and problems, and we, throughout the title year, addressed our issues or problems and put them in a context of European values, which is very important. So basically, I can start with this presentation as well. We had 8 program platforms, as I mentioned. So in our second program platform called Migrations, The main topic that we kind of tackled was actually the problem of migrations in Serbia, in region, in Europe, and then now globally also in the world. So throughout this month, and this was from the beginning of February to almost end of March, we had different programs that had this topic as the main focus. And during this program platform, the kind of movie achievements that we showcased were also connected with these topics. So, for example, Image from Image that was showcased on the 1st of March was actually related to the Paja Jovanović, one of the most famous Serbian painters, and his painting Migration of the Serbs that was also showcased in the gallery of Matica Srpska during that month. So we kind of interconnect the different art disciplines. And that brings a new insight into the history of the artwork, and it was a documentary movie that was presented. And then following this topic, we had a very difficult issue presenting that was related to the problem of refugees. Therefore, the movie called Little Palestine, A Diary of the Siege, was showcased by the end of the March. It's Abdallah Al-Khatib's documentary that depicts the actual life of Yarmouk, which is one of the most biggest refugee camp in Syria. And so basically also along with this film program, we had Fire at the Sea, which is another documentary film which showcased the problem of the migrations. And to connect that closer, we also had an exhibition of the World Press photo that was happening on the city, Liberty Square in the city center, and it showcased the issues of the migrations throughout like past few decades. So when you're like in Novi Sad in February and March, you're really living the story of migrations through different angles. And as mentioned, film was also a big part of it. So in that sense, we never want to just tell a story outside a context. We always like to bring topics together. To move forward, we had in our program platform dedicated to female creativity. So basically this platform gave ode to the more beautiful representatives of population. We tackled the issues of different topics related to women's creations and status in society. So this platform was happening from mid-May till mid-June. And we had different clusters within this platform. For example, in the first one, we were showing through visual arts exhibition and the movie unveiling the kind of phenomenon of wearing a scarf. And this was mainly related to women in Sarajevo and the reasons for wearing the headscarf. Therefore, this movie was showcased on 27th of May to address this topic and the scarf as a cultural signifier. Then during our festival dedicated to women on Fruška Gora mountain, the village of Vrnik, if you ever have a chance, I warmly recommend you to visit the only hill in Vojvodina, as I would like to say. It was actually during the 3 days in June. Different programs came together, and this was very beautiful because the movie that was showed was dedicated to children, and the whole festival was actually dedicated to celebrating the culture of families. So basically the programs during the day were mainly focused on programs for children. Then in the evening there were theater shows and concerts of classical and popular music. And the movie How I Learned to Fly was actually screened at the Open Air Cinema, a story of a 12-year-old girl and her adventures and kind of coming out of the various ways in imagination and what happens when technology disappears from a young person, and the children really enjoyed it. So we had also later, and I'll talk about it more, these open air film screenings, which are very nice, very sustainable, and very kind of ecology friendly as well. And also to conclude with the movies that were showcased during this platform, during this particular topic, we had a female filmmakers festival from 6th to 8th of June, And in this particular part of the month, and in this particular cluster, we were more focused on activism and on kind of feminism in terms of female creativity, inspired by the first journalist, first politician in Serbia, Milica Tomic, who was living in the well, it's now over 100 years ago, and she was like a pioneer of women empowerment in Serbia. And this festival is critically acclaimed professional and student film festival because we wanted to encourage the young people to get more involved with it and show the development of female film authorship, which was very important in our program. And of course, to discuss current feminist issues and other activist problems that we are facing. Then in the next chapter of our title year, we had a program that is dedicated to peace, reconciliation in the region, and again, different topics that we are facing in terms of the questions of peace and war. And this was happening in the months from the middle of June till middle of July. Where I highlighted 3 events here. One was screened on 26th of June, Men Don't Cry. Yeah, it has a symbolical meaning as well. But it actually talks about post-traumatic stresses of experience that were faced during the war in the 90s. And although they come from different sides, the traumas of the heroes are kind of the same, and led to the conclusion that the victory can only be found in reconciliation, which we feel it's a very important topic to talk about. And this platform had also a lot of debates, a lot of philosophical engagement debates that were important to kind of stress out this issue. Then the open process was a collaboration with a project from Chemnitz, and we also like to encourage a lot of these European collaborations, including also European Capitals of Culture. It showed the film of Želimir Đilnik, great director, reflected the continuity of violence, xenophobia, racism, and how that can be overcome, how we can face it in a more progressive way. And Liberta, it's the biggest film achievement in our program, and it is one of our flagship projects. So basically, throughout the title year, we had a focus that each 2 months we have like a highlight project that actually kind of is a statement for the title year. And in this part of the year, that was the film called Liberta. It's actually the film that talks about how Novi Sad regained liberation without spilling a drop of blood. Again, that's why the context and the reason why it is in this program platform. And this was a movie which is now being also created into the TV series, which is a good sustainable model. Possibly it will also, actually the plan is for it to be screened in different European countries and also globally. And I will now show you, because I also believe that visuals speak louder than words, I'll show you a little bit of a snippet of our... it's just a video, so I don't know if I can play it from here. Oh, there it starts. It's like an after movie of the movie. To showcase on Petrovaradin Fortress on the open air. And we made a whole scenography that all the actors are actually dressed up as the characters from the movie. It was a real travel through time. Very nice. Just a snippet of the program in terms of film that we are kind of the most proud of. And to continue further, because I have a limited time here. We are actually coming to one of my most favorite platforms, because they actually talk about the ecology and the problems of the pollution of the Danube River and how we are facing it. Within this program, which is called Danube Sea, we had programs that are related to the ecology, including film as well. So basically, throughout these 10 days, second part of July till kind of the beginning of August, on the shore of the Danube River, we had in situ projects and different film screenings that are discussing the topic of Danube being second largest river in Europe, yet one of the most polluted ones, and how it can be overcome. Therefore, Green Cinema was a film festival that was actually showcasing 5 different towns in Vojvodina, brought open air cinema. Then during other cluster of this program platform called Boring River, we actually had a collaboration with other Danube countries, and the topic was again related to the pollution and the kind of ecology, and it was actually related to why I like to emphasize this, because this was a result of the artist in residence program collaborations, and as Stojan said in the beginning, that's a very good and sustainable model of how you kind of push forward the young artists to get their visibility in such relevant programs. And Karlovci Film Festival also happened during our platform Danube Sea, which is a festival that has already a tradition, and it is actually dislocated from the city center in the kind of outskirts of Novi Sad, and it brought together favorite domestic and foreign films, and now, as I said, it's, I think 4 years in a row it has already the tradition. And we have also different art workshops related to film within this festival. So it's always good to kind of not only focus on one discipline, but to engage into different activities in order to make something more fun and more sustainable, and more kind of audience engaging, which is very important. Then Euro in Film 2022, Save the Planet, again, the important topic. Within the title year, this was the 25th birthday of this big festival, celebrated in Novi Sad, and the theme was, as the title says, saving the planet. Different environmental problems were discussed, and 3 domestic films were also shown during this festival. Again, we also engaged the audience to kind of get involved and give their kind of attitude towards these burning topics and issues. Biofabrica, biofabric in English. It's actually a mistake. It's 22nd of August, not September. The premiere of short documentary film of the topic, again, of ecology, the joint work of different arts educators, microbiologists, architects, and other local international experts joined together to implement new and bridgeable sustainable material called SCOBY in order to overcome maybe the issue of overuse of plastic. So it was very kind of thought-provoking topic here. And again, for me, I really like the fact that we encourage this open-air cinema near the Danube River, because it gave a very nice environment, and it was open for people to sit and enjoy on like lazy bags, or sit on the grass and see these movies, so you kind of feel more connected to the nature while you're actually addressing this topic. To go further, in Kaleidoscope of Culture, which is our program platform that has been happening also before the title year. So basically we had some programs that we started with from 2017, even though Novi Sad was proclaimed European Capital of Culture in 2022. And Kaleidoscope of Culture and Doček were one of those 2 platforms that later on brought us also the prestigious title of the best European trend brand in culture in Dresden in 2021. So we got a prestigious title even before the title year, which we're very proud of. And as a result of Kaleidoscope of Culture, we also created the Obnova Film Festival that is actually showing the remastered classics of national cinematography, and it's also encouraging young artists to participate. It has a professional jury that is also selecting the best films. And it's been, I think, now 3 years since this film festival is happening. Then we had also different screenings throughout this platform. One is actually the classic film starring James Stewart. It's one of the most watched films of all time, which was based on the short story by Philip Van Doren Stern. And we had also a charade, which is again American film with famous Audrey Hepburn starring, and it's kind of one of the few non-Hitchcock movies that Hitchcock didn't create, but then that relates to, and they're very close to his artistic expression and how he perceives the cinematography. And to close our title year and to close the story about how movies were involved in our program, we had a platform called the Other Europe. And in this program platform that was happening from beginning of October, actually second week of October till end of November, the topics were related to arts of marginalized groups and arts of creativity of people with kind of some impairments, and also the arts which are not kind of very mainstream. It's more like B-sides arts, where we had a festival of comic books, where we had a performance of, for example, Evelyn Glennie, who is like 90% deaf, Scottish, Great Britain, I'm not sure if she's Scottish, I think so, percussionist who is Grammy awarding, but she kind of opened this platform because in spite of this impairment, she pushed through and she established a strong career and presence in the music industry in the world. And relating to the film, we had a film festival called Seize the Film from 12th to 16th of October. 29 short films were screened during this festival, and it was actually made accessible for people with disabilities, whether they are deaf, blind, or have any other physical disability, which is very important, because in Serbia we did a lot during this program of European Capital Culture to make programs accessible for everyone. Before it was a little bit difficult, not only for the films but also for the exhibitions, to make things accessible for everyone. And film contained closed captioning in Serbian, and for the first time in our country there also audio described and dubbed into Serbian. We don't have that culture in our country to dub the movies in our language. It usually remains in the original one. And it was also interpreted into the sign language, which is very important. The Film Front Festival, 27th to 30th of October. Again, festival short original film support young professionals and amateurs for developing their independent production. We had a children's film festival, which is also, it was very well attended. Program intended for the youngest audiences to bring them together. It was actually a combination of short animated films around the world that was showcased. Comic cinema, as I mentioned, we had a platform dedicated to, actually the program cluster dedicated to comics in Novi Sad. It was actually happening in the Creative District, which is the biggest infrastructural achievement of our title year. That is the area which was actually abandoned factories that were rotting without electricity, without any suitable conditions. We reconstructed that area of 40,000 square meters, creating around 15 different objects for the arts, preserving the industrial heritage of architecture, which is very important. And within our title year, one of the programs there was the City of Comics, being like the 9th art now. And within the comic book city, we had also comic cinema, where 100 Serbian animated films were shown during this program. And they were all thematically connected to the major visual arts exhibitions. So as you can see, it is the merge of different disciplines that we like to tackle together. And Japanese-Serbian Film Festival from 9th to 26th of October was a collaboration with Japan. Throughout our title year, we had a big support of Japan, EU-Japan Fest, through the collaborations and different open calls, where we were sending out our young artists, emerging artists, and established artists to Japan, and they were also coming here to create programs that are inspired by different themes related to our culture year. And as I mentioned, this film festival is the result of this long-term collaboration, presenting contemporary names of Japanese and national filmmakers to the Novi Sad audience. So in very brief, this is how we kind of included the film in our program to highlight out of our 8 program platforms throughout the year. In 6 program platforms, we included the film as one of the major disciplines that were there to tell the story of the concept that we have created. We also established Festival Obnova and Kaleidoscope of Culture as a result of our title year. We created the biggest movie that talks about the history and liberation of Novi Sad Libertad, the one that you managed to see. And the film here was used to kind of tell the story of European values and how we implement our leitmotif of building bridges together through arts and culture. Yeah. Thank you.
Grazie, Sara Vulic.
Thank you.
Thank you. I took a few notes of the REACH program. So reviving the history of migration, the feminist look on history, promoting the culture of peace in order to fight against violence, xenophobia, racism, and the close link between the two, promoting environmental protection, and all that based on inclusion and cross-cutting contamination among different genres. So that was a very rich program that was built with the idea to make bridges combining the past, the present and future, and different generations, through which, as you were saying, we can disseminate the founding values of Europe, as in inclusion, solidarity, tolerance, more rights, more equal rights for everyone. Now, from Novi Sad, we'll travel to Timisoara with Nicoletta Chokov. Please join me. Nicoletta Chokov is the curator of cultural spaces from Cultural Project Timisoara. For years, she's been engaging in the promotion of the European films. So let's see what they have done, what they are doing this year, where Timisoara is the European Capital of Culture, is in 2023. So it is a year that is about to start. So we will see how Timisoara 2023 is going to be an opportunity to support cinema and to support the seventh art and to make cinema closer to the audience and vice versa.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Monica, for inviting Timisoara Capital of Culture to this event. Timisoara is passing through a very good time now, maybe the best time of ever, because of this capital of culture and because many things happens in Timisoara. So we are, while everywhere in the world cinemas are getting closed, in Timisoara we open new cinemas, and I want to talk about this with you. So as you mentioned before, I work in the cinema film in cinematography for 10 years. I organized different film projections. I created a film festival in Timisoara, Ciao Cinema Film Festival, for 10 years now. And since August last year, I'm a curator in the Center for Projects in Timisoara. Center for Projects' main activity is to administrate the funds dedicated for the operators who work in the cultural field, but it also has the role of implementing the Capital of Culture program, and starting from last year administrates different cultural places in Timisoara, like cinemas, art exhibitions and so on, and I'm part of this department from August last year. So My presentation will be about the cinema halls in Timisoara, the events we are doing there around cinema, and how we bring people into the cinema halls. Okay, I will start with a short historical introduction, just to see the path and how the cinemas developed in Timisoara. So during the communism, Timisoara had 13 cinemas, and they represented the heart of the cultural meetings of the people, so were one of the most interesting and important activity for everyone. But one by one they got closed because of the lack of investment in the infrastructure, in the renovation, in creating them in nice places to see movies. And since in the last 10 years, we didn't have any in any cinema of the town. So once the multiplexes opened, they opened two. Once the malls opened, they opened two multiplexes, and which has 25 screens and around 4,500 seats. But in these places we could see only American movies, and we couldn't find any European independent movies, maybe only through the festivals or with the torrents from internet where we download it at home. So the situation is getting better, because in 2018 the town hall won in court the administration of 8 cinemas, because all the cinemas in Romania are administrated by RADEF. It's an institution who administrated all the cinemas in Romania. So 8 of the old cinemas of the town are now in the city hall administration, and the town hall assumed and have the intention of renovating them and transform them into multicultural spaces, not only cinemas but multifunctional, multicultural spaces. And they will have, they have this promise that they will, we will have at least 4 film projections a month. In 2022, last year, we opened the first cinema from these 8 is Cinema Victoria, and I can tell that we had a great start. In last year, we had in 14 weeks of functioning, we had 185 events. We had over 15,000 spectators. More than 50% were youth. And yes, the public was very supportive, and we are glad that we had this welcoming, because Timisoara also have many other things and events during this time. This year, other 3 cinemas will be open, and one of them, the one from the image, is Cinema Studio. This will become an art cinema in town with 2 halls, a medium and a small one, a rooftop cinema, co-working space for production, video production, a cafe, a shop, sound and video design labs. So yes, this will be open this year, and by the end of this year we will have 4 cinemas to coordinate, not only one, with 1,475 seats, which is quite a challenge for our town, considering the other multiplexes and the opera and philharmonic and everything is what is going on in Timisoara. So yes, it's quite a big challenge for us, even if we are a capital of culture, and we consider that this is an important mission for us as administrators of the spaces, but also for the public and for the community and the cultural operators to make it a success. It's to participate, to attend, to be part of this celebration of new places in town. I want to talk to you about the cinema event. So in the last years, between 2005 and 2015, as I said, it was almost impossible to see any other type of movies than blockbusters, because you couldn't find them anywhere, only in a couple of film festivals, as Timisoara or the European Film Festival, the French Film Festival. So in 2012, together with a friend of mine, we started Película Cultural Association, and we started to organize film projections, European film projections in different places in town. And we had two main goals. One was to promote the European movies, and the other one was to promote the multiculturality of the town, to promote hidden gems of our town, and to tell the story of those places. So as you can see, we organize film projections in libraries, in underground places, at the Philharmonica, or at the ballet rehearsal room from the opera house, where you could never get in, only in our event, or at the synagogue from Timisoara, or during the, in the we organized a picnic under the stars during the Perseide shower of stars, if you know it, yes, in the astronomical observatory from Timisoara. So we started to grow up a big community of people who came with us, and to see the places, to see the movies that we selected special for them. And then, together with our friends from Marele Ecran, another association, we created Ciao Cinema Film Festival. Ciao Cinema is like ciao, a salute for the European film, European cinematography. It's a salute that we welcome it into our community. And yes, this year we have our 10th anniversary. So if you plan to come to Timisoara between 12 and 16 of July, we have the 10th anniversary of Ciao Cinema, and it's a very nice festival dedicated to European films, and through which we promote the multi-ethnicity of our place, because Timisoara is at the west border near Serbia, Hungary, and we have over 17 multi-ethnic people and nations there, and all these nations can attend to our competition of films that we have. So yes, and you can see everywhere that we have this watermelon combined with the movie, because we serve watermelon instead of popcorn during our films, because it's in July, and because we are very connected to a village near Timisoara, which is very well known for their juicy watermelon. But we wanted everybody to know Gotlob, because it's the first village in Romania who has who renovated the cinema. So they were before Timisoara. Timisoara had no cinema, and we went there to this little village and brought the movie, and they brought the watermelon to Timisoara. So yes, this is Ciao Cinema, my festival. But this year it's a miracle that because of the opening of a dedicated venue like Cinema Victoria, and because of the capital of culture, we will have over 15 film festivals in town, which is a lot. There are several festivals that used to be, but there are many others who just appeared overnight, and all the nations from Europe just will want to have a film festival in Timisoara. So if you want to see, even Italian embassy will organize a film festival. So yes, we are very eager to accommodate them in Cinema Victoria. Okay, now I will continue with a more detailed presentation about how we bring people in our cinemas. And this is based on my experience before being part of Cinema Victoria, from how I organized the film projections, but also what we've done in the last months to bring so many people and to make Cinema Victoria quite a success by now. So we promote through, we have online promotion which covers most of our promotion, of course. We have also the offline one. The partnerships are very important in communicating with different type of communities, and we also have other type of events. So I'll start with the online promotion. And yes, we started with social media, a very active social media campaign. We have a Facebook page, Instagram page, and we communicate every day, at least 2 posts a day. We have authentic, friendly, and we try voice, and we try to be to bring important information and funny information to our people. We organize contests for the community. We try to involve them to write on our Facebook page. We organize interviews about the old cinemas, about the new cinemas, with important people from Timisoara or just with our community. We created this hashtag Vino la Victoria. It's like Vieni a Victoria, and we communicate it everywhere. Come to Victoria. We try to reward the most faithful spectators. So last year we gave some prizes in free entrances to our films, or even free entrances to the festivals we organize, free private projection for the one who bought the most, the biggest number of tickets. We also have this weekly newsletter. We send it every Monday with the program of our cinema. We promoted it on Facebook. Then we send an email to all the people who bought tickets online from us, and we just inform them that, look, we have a newsletter now. If you want, you can just subscribe. And yes, we have over 300 people in 2 months, which is great for us. Then we have a cool web page, and I invite you to follow us, of course, on our website or in social media. It's cinemavictoria-tm.ro. We have this offline promotion. Every week we print out posters that we disseminate in town, in special places in town, but also in libraries, in bars, in cafes, in places where our public is walking around. We have big poster on the facade of the cinema. We have this big electronic screen on the cinema, but also we use other screens from town to promote our weekly program. We also send a press release every Monday. Today I sent a press release with the program of this week. And we give interviews to the press with when we have special events, special guests in the cinema, and we try to be everywhere to people to hear about us from multiple channels. We think that the partnership has a strong power in bringing together different types of persons, different types of communities in our cinema. So we started to collaborate with schools, and we have a week which is called a different week, different week in the school, and every school has to organize different type of activities during this week, and we are fully booked from the morning till the evening with different school projections, because this cinema Victoria is in a neighborhood where nothing happened before, but now all the schools from the neighborhood wants to go with their kids to the cinema. So yes, we collaborate with schools, universities, with students or educational associations. We accommodated conferences of professors because we wanted them to learn about this new place, that they can come and they have an open door to our cinema. We also make cross-promotion to the events that we accommodate there. If we have other festivals or concerts, we promote, they promote we promote in our group, they promote the events in their group, and so on. Everybody hear about us. We bring special guests to Q&As, and also through their communities, we can share the information to different channels. We invite different groups to our events. For instance, if we have a film projection or film festival regarding the mountains, we talk to the associations, climbing associations, or people who are interested in the mountains nature to bring to come to the festival, to the projection. So we have targeted promotion. We also organized film projections related to national and international celebrations, like National Day, Day of Europe, Children's Day, National Day of Culture, Women's Day, and so on, because we also want to have people who doesn't really come to the cinema, or they are not interested in this place other way than connecting them with these events. And we have a great team of volunteers. We have 15 volunteers who support us in promoting our events through either sharing them on social media or distributing posters in town, talking to their friends about Cinema Victoria and our events. And it's very important to have this this communication from one to the other, from the young audience, because they are all young, like 18 to 30 years old, and it's good to have some ambassadors who speak on the youth language to bring them to our cinema. So if you have questions, maybe after at the end of the presentations. And thank you very much for having me here. I invite you to come to Timisoara. This year it's Capital of Culture. In 17th of February we will have the opening of the Capital of Culture, but the year is long, so you can just pick a month, and don't be afraid, because we have at least 30 events a week every month, so you will find for sure something nice to see in Timisoara. And if you want to see a festival, come to Ciao Cinema Film Festival.
Sicuramente, grazie Nicoletta Ciokov.
Thank you.
I'm already thinking of the debate ahead, because we'll have some room for questions. I would like to understand the commitment of Timisoara 2023 in promoting cinema culture and European cinema and multiculturality, and in creating a large community, including museums, libraries, astronomical observatories, and empower the people, which is very important. We should be coming back, because synergies and collaborations and cooperations are key to create a new cultural ecosystem. And I think it will more and more be so to create a cultural cross-border ecosystem, just thinking of Gorizia, Nova Gorica, European Capital of Culture 2025. Now we'll conclude the first session for this morning with Anja Medved, the film director, who's working on a documentary on memory through the personal memories from different perspectives and points of view that enable to explore and to cross the border, this border country between Slovenia and Italia, and to tell people about the past, or better, to imagine the past of Gorizia, Nova Gorica, and to understand how and if this city, this cross-border city, and these two cross-border cities can be a suitable training for coexisting. Thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everybody. I will talk not from the point of view of the program, but I will give you some food for thought, so to say, based on the work I've been carrying out in the last years.
I titled this The Space in the Line. I will speak as a native resident of Nova Gorica and as a director of a series of documentary films in which, mostly together with my mother, Nadia Velušček, we have been binding memories of this historically divided area for more than 20 years. Nova Gorica was built because Gorizia, the main center of the region, remained in Italy after Second World War. Only after we shot the documentary The Town in a Meadow, Mesto na Travniku, in 2004, which is about the construction of Nova Gorica, I realized what a miracle is that this town of my birth exists at all. The film ends with the words of Ervin Hladnik Milharčič, journalist and writer from Nova Gorica. Here, in a very small space, you have all the issues of modern Europe brought together. In this sense, too, Nova Gorica is a very modern environment because it has to resolve how to merge the two into one. Nova Gorica and Gorizia were growing in counterpoint. Alongside the new Gorica, the old Gorizia was becoming even older. The result was two very different towns sharing the same space. They seem like yin and yang, each with its own piece of meadow as the main square. In Gorizia by name only, in Nova Gorica with an empty space covered with grass in the center. First urbanist of Nova Gorica, Edvard Ravnikar, reserved this green square already in his first draft, maybe as a monument to the green space that the new town was about to invade. And it is a miracle that it remained unbuilt till now. Save the space, said Danilo Fürst, the second urban planner of this distinctly modern city when we interviewed him. It's interesting that John Cage composed 4 minutes and 33 seconds, one of the founding works of high modernism, in the same year when the construction of Nova Gorica began. When we reserve space for silence in the field of music, we realize that it's audible. In the same way, we become aware of the fullness of empty space when it is placed in an urban center. Absolute empty space, like absolute silence, exists only in theory. We can recognize them only in relation to their difference. That opposites could be linked is a challenging idea, which was its very conception inscribed in the town created by the border. I remember a man telling me that he first experienced the idea of freedom when he for the first time crossed the border by himself. And indeed, in the 70s and 80s, after a few minutes of cycling, you could find yourself in a completely different world, if you were in Nova Gorica or in Gorizia. Today, it is difficult to reach a different world even by plane. So we should protect not only space, but differences as well. They are what made growing up by the border a privilege. You could understand two languages without noticing, and without much effort you realized that things can be perceived differently at the same time. It was also normal to pretend that the world on the other side didn't exist. The common city map was impossible to find. The street simply ended and reappeared on the other side with a different name, as if the universe at once and the others ended somewhere at the Transalpina train station. However, because my mother grew up in contact with grandma's family who stayed on the Italian side, she always experienced this space as a whole, differently from me, who grew up in mostly contact with my peers who had relatives in different parts of Yugoslavia. For me, the border was something physical, like a river that will always be there. Also because Yugoslavia in the 70s seems like the most solid thing in the world. In 2002, we made the documentary My Borderline, which tells the story of how the border divided our family and many others. We were collecting stories of people living on both sides, telling how the history interrupted their everyday life and how they had to decide which identity to choose. The first film we made was about the Isonzo front, the biggest change in this territory because of the vast devastation it left behind. In 1998, it was still possible to talk to 90-year-olds who remembered the first war as children. It was with this movie that we became fully aware of the importance of preserving memories. They remembered in the details about the day they had to flee from their homes and how people treated them as refugees in foreign countries. At the premiere of the film, most of them were already dead. We realized that we documented the last generation that kept the images, sounds, and smells of that crucial historic period in their memory. I feel that when a generation that remembers such an important turning point disappears, something resonates in the present as well. And indeed, in the end of 20th century was marked by refugees coming from the war in the former homeland. From that point on, we decided that we would always shoot more than it was necessary for the film. The archive was no longer a byproduct of the film, but vice versa. The film became a byproduct of the archive of memory. We were interested in personal, seemingly historically irrelevant memories, but which shed light on fragments of a never-before-seen past. We approached people with curiosity, willing that their stories might shake our ideas and presumptions. In border area, the same date is often marked by conflicting memories. The most famous is, for example, the miracle at Kobarid is translated in Italian as an opposite, the disaster of Kobarid. We learn to hold the ambivalence by putting different points of view into wider context and by differentiating people from their identities. We found that the space of the border also has its own particular identity, which does not belong to any side but connects them. United Europe should be most at home in its no man's lands. This is where its complex soul is best expressed, reflecting devastations that fights for its imaginary divisions left on the real ground. It was in this territory that future of Europe was gambled several times. So my grandmother, for example, changed as many as 5 countries without ever leaving her house of birth. How to tell the story of a divided past in a way that will connect and become challenging. This is how we approach to make a film about the zones of front in which not a single regiment or battle is mentioned. We prefer to focus attention behind the scenes of the war and rummage through the garbage of everyday life that was mostly in women's hands. While empires crumbled and social systems collapsed, families helped each other and survived. That is why Nova Gorica and Gorizia don't need a shared narrative of the past, but rather a joint memory album. Understanding of the past of the border area is never one-layered because it is narrated by several voices, which is why the structure of the collection suits it better than a linear narrative form. In December of 2007, actually 20th of December, when Slovenia entered Schengen area and the border barriers were removed, with Kino Atelier Association, we organized the first public campaign of collecting memories at the former border crossing between Nova Gorica and Gorizia. Inhabitants of both towns were invited to bring family photos at the checkpoint where customs officers used to interrogate us and to tell into camera the memories selected images evoked. The purpose was to bind the memories of 2 towns and give a new connecting meaning to the symbolic space of separation. When we remember the same event from different perspectives, the difference between the past and its narrative unfolds. This difference, even if minimal, tells us that we are all irretrievably distant from the past. The past is only accessible in fragments. The rest we have to imagine. And here is the moment when art, film, can enter as a generator of common space. Artistic practices from film, theater, literature, contemporary arts, which explore narrative techniques and performance effects, can become a safe space for testing both external and internal boundaries. The goal of preventing the repetition of history of terror might seem an illusion, but we are once again watching scenes of refugees from the war in Ukraine, and this time too, the generation that still remembers World War II is living for good. Border area is a mining field for stories that are complex and unpredictable. Stories that touch us deeply and invite us to hold the ambivalence and test our preconceptions and ideas, not only about the past, but also about the present and the future. They can become a base for future productions of various kinds that promote the idea of no man's lands as a land of all. In this sense, the cities of Nova Gorica and Gorizia could become an excellent coexistence training ground where we learn to recognize manipulations, the languages of power, and to detect nationalist and ideological constructs. But also as heirs of modernism, when art and life were intrinsically connected, to learn to protect our living space and time. I would like to think of European capitals of Europe as islands of utopia, where more just and friendly world could be imagined. Every time we try to eliminate differences or set clear boundaries between them, we forget that every minority is a treasure and that we all share the same space and time. When we allow the exclusionary diction, who is not with us is against us, to prevail, we find ourselves on the brink of a new war. Dangerous exclusionary dynamics do not disappear when borders are removed, but only when there is enough common space within them. What should interest us in the city of modernity as European capital of culture is not the quantity of artistic productions, but the quality of common space they will generate and leave behind. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you, Anya Medev. Changing nationality without leaving your home ever. This is quite a common story for those who were born and grew up in this area, where the border, as Anya Medev said, is a characteristic element. And the border, as she said, is a physical border, but also a border in terms of conceptual border. So it is important to think how art in general and cinema in particular can tell the identity of these areas, of these lands, and the people living there. Telling the past, the present, and the future, as you said, and telling the change brought about by migration and by integration. From this perspective, it is important to underline that bordering cities and regions can indeed be an opportunity for Europe, because they can show that Europe should be first and foremost a community made of people. So let's finish off this first session. We're now going to have a short coffee break. We'll be back here with 2 more presentations from other 2 European capitals of culture, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. We're going to come back here at 12, okay? So enjoy your coffee and see you back here at 12.